Hey Sammin Fans, today I want to show you how to lure bosses, how they work, a few tricks, and that you have more influence in the game than you might be aware of. Let's start with the Maws. They are probably the easiest to lure bosses. They target the closest player when they spawn. If they aren't killed, they might change the target to another player who's closer to them when they launch the surface. Take advantage of this and try to be the closest and lead the Maws to the basket. Here you see my volunteering friend being the Maws target. I just go close enough during its attack and manage to get the Maws aggro, so I can lead the Maws to the basket for 3 easy eggs. Here's a freelance example. My team luckily didn't manage to kill the Maws, so I took the opportunity to get the aggro. I choose to go the long way to not trigger an attack and lose the aggro. Worked out! The next boss is a Scrapper. They are also easy to lure. Similar to the Maws, they target the closest player when they spawn, but their aggro is loose, which means if the Scrapper stays unshot, it will change the aggro anytime someone else is closer, until it's briefly shot or hit by a bomb. If someone else gets a fixed aggro, you can steal it by hitting the Scrapper or throwing a bomb at it if you are further away. This Scrapper just spawned. You can see its aggro switching back and forth between me and my friend until I hit it. Here's a short example of how you can manipulate the Scrapper aggro back and forth by briefly shooting at it. This scenario we sadly see quite often and can cause snowballs or losses. Don't be afraid to lose the Scrapper. Just go back to the basket side and the Scrapper will follow you. Only go to the other side to kill bosses you can't lure, like Stinger, Flyfish, but make sure to come back as soon as possible. Here in freelance example, I spotted a Scrapper going after a freelancer on the bottom and hit it. Since there was another freelancer on the path the Scrapper would have taken, I prepared to get ready to kill the Scrapper in case the freelancer would have stopped it, to not lose any time by being stubborn to lure at all costs. Another example to take the Scrapper aggro. My team went for a Stinger and I made sure the Scrapper isn't following them. And here's a neat trick. If you manage to not stop the Scrapper, you can lure it over the platform on Salmon Run. Now we're gonna talk about Steelheads. Steelheads are limited to lure, since the whole team has to back off. Their aggro is loose and switches easy to anyone who is closer. If you want to distract the Steelhead from someone else, go close without getting too close to trigger the attack. You will see their focus will change towards you. You see, the Steelhead will attack as soon as someone is too close to them. If everyone backs off and you position near the basket, you can let them come to you. Another way to lure the Steelhead is using much higher ground, like the walls in Lost Outpost. But it will only work if no one else is interrupting. This can be helpful for high tides and Lost Outposts to get the Steelheads inside the house. It's totally fine to kill Steelheads early and use your explosion to kill multiple bosses though. Watch out, here's a neat trick. If you spot a Steelhead walking over the left elevator, give them a free ride. This also works for the right elevator, but it's much harder. So you maybe rather want to focus on the happenings in the game. The next boss is a Steel Eel. The eel will target the closest player when it spawns, and the aggro will only change when the targeted player dies. Yet there are 2 maps where you can manipulate the aggro by moving on the platform on Salmon Run or the elevator on Maruna's Bay. But be careful, you might catch your teammate off guard and cause their death. If you are aware of being the target of an eel and you or your team are in the moment unable to kill it, you might want to keep in mind that you can lure the eel actually away from the basket when necessary. Now I do have the eel aggro, and I'm going to show you that the aggro switches to another player once we move on the elevator or the fan platform on Salmon Run Smokeyard. Here I wanted to sting with the fly fish, but I noticed the eel is on me, so I de-aggroed by moving on the elevator. Let's talk about Drizzler now. Drizzler are limited lureable. They have designated spots they jump to. Once a player gets too close, they settle and target this player by shooting their torpedo in this player's direction. You see, if you go to the Drizzler when it spawns, it will settle and attack. And you have far X if you kill them there. Don't rush to the Drizzler, especially at the beginning of the wave. And you can let them come closer when you give them enough space. In this Tri-Lens example, you see no one is rushing to the first spawns, and the Drizzler keep jumping towards the basket. In this Freelance example, I noticed the Drizzler when delivering my egg. I backed off and hoped I didn't trigger them to settle already. The best way to deal with Drizzler, no matter how far they are, is probably to kill them with reflecting their torpedo. You can even revive teammates with the torpedo. Let's talk about flyfish now. Flyfish aren't lureable at all. They have designated spots they spawn at and move between. When you are in front of the flyfish, the left launcher will target a random player. The right launcher will target the closest player. A crippled flyfish with only one launcher left will always target the closest player. Since only 3 bosses of each type can be on the map at the same time, it can be worth to cripple the flyfish instead of killing them. This reduces the missiles and prevents the respawn of healthy flyfish. One thing you need to be mindful of with flyfish is to not turn them away from your team. This can be especially on cannons a problem. If you spot a flyfish turning unfortunate towards another player, try to turn them back by being the closest before the flyfish settles. Probably one of the most annoying things when killing a flyfish is an instant respawn. You can prevent this by leaving the flyfish crippled. You still have to deal with missiles, but only half as many. And sometimes, even flyfish can be your ally. The next boss is a stinger. Stinger are also not lureable at all. They will target the furthest player. As you can see, the stinger is looking for a target and fires at the furthest player. Sometimes you might be like, hey, I wasn't furthest, why am I the target again? You then still might have been the furthest once the new cycle has started. If you notice your team is struggling with getting rid of the stinger or the inkjet is ignoring them and it snowballs, you can take the stinger aggro on you and go on a higher place to avoid the team wipe. But do this only if you are good at dodging and the quota isn't met. Last but not least, the Goalie and Fog. They are lureable. The aggro is loose, so you can easily lose them to another player being closer to them. Try to get their attention and lead them to the basket. As you can see, the player who the goalie is following is switching easy by whoever is closer. If you spot a goalie in freelance, try to get their attention and lead them to the basket. Well, if your teammates let you. But 10 eggs near the basket are more rewarding than on the shore, right? The elevator trick on Bay works also with the goalie. Lure them to the elevator and make sure to be as close to the ship as possible to avoid them going down. Let's summarize. You have learned now quite a lot of how bosses work and how to lure them. Try to lure what you can, especially the easy to lure bosses like Scrapper and Mouse, but don't overlure. And please, don't stay at the basket now and yell this way trying to make your teammates lure. You are just wasting time. If a teammate stay bosses early, just help them. If you get the opportunity to lure, try it. I personally tend to kill the more dangerous bosses like steel eels and steelheads a little earlier. Take care of rain torpedoes and be mindful to not share your flyfish missiles with your teammates. Maybe even lure bosses away from the basket on purpose if it's snowballing or crowded. Good luck, and I hope this tutorial is gonna help you. Thanks for watching.